Hello and welcome to the Breakthrough and Thrive Summit, where you have the opportunity to ignite your power, take charge of your healing, and create happiness after experiencing sexual abuse and trauma. So here we have, I'm your host, Jamie Lynn, and here we have with us today Patricia Walls. She is amazing. She's an intuitive alchemist, and she assists in healing, creating balance and expansion in your life. Please give a warm welcome to. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I think what you're doing for the women or for humanity as a whole is just incredible.
Oh, thank you. So the biggest question I always have for my speakers is, what got you here? How did you end up on this path?
Well, like most women, what is it, 1 in 3, 1 in 6? I experienced some trauma as a child, and it set me on a path of wanting to move past it, wanting to heal, which I noticed after that I started drawing all of these women to me who were in the same situation. I was led to different healing modalities. First, it was the Egyptian mysticism, and then shamanism, and then all of these other quote unquote healing modalities. And through all of that, through healing myself, I started noticing all these women who were drawn to me and wanted to work, wanted to learn more. So that's why I am where I am.
That is a really cool path. Thank you for
It's amazing how Creator Source, one of my sisters calls them Gus, Gus Universe Source. Yeah. But it's amazing how Gus brings all of this into our lives, or how we set it up. Because one of the things that I do is hypnosis, past life regressions and stuff. And what that's taught me most is that we set all of this up. Yeah. And to experience. I mean, we are souls in a human body coming here to experience. And it's not always a good experience.
But I think the point to know is, and the powerful point, is that we said yes to this. So my personal story, just to go right along with what you had just said, I had asked Source to give me a reminder and let me know that all the pain that I was about to endure was worth it. Like, I made a promise. And I didn't know how that was going to show up. And of course, you're born and you're busy growing up, so you don't think about the promises that you've made. I mean, we're meant to forget too, to just be in the experience of what it is to be born and be a child and grow up. So when I was 7, a bunch of these spirits came into my room to remind me. And they were like, this is the last opportunity that we can give you to remember to do this. And I saw flashes of the same timeline, but other experiences that I had where I just was like, I gave up. I lived the good life, or I lived the bad life, but I had given up. And they were like, you know what? What do you want? We want to know what you want. So I told them what I was looking for and what I was hoping for. And I got my daughters that I dreamed of, and I got the husband that I wished for. And, now I'm on the other side of it, and here I am fulfilling on my promise to the best of my human ability to do so. Mm-hmm. But the most powerful thing was right there. Like, I said yes to this. And I know, like, there's Christian people who are like, Jesus didn't want this for you. And I heard that comment the other day, and I'm like, I get it. Source doesn't want us to go through pain. Source doesn't want us to suffer. And I am more powerful for it.
I believe that. I believe that, of course, God, Source, Jesus, they don't want us to suffer. Our angels and guides don't want us to suffer. But law of free will was put into place for a reason, And if I have a really quick story, can I share it?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. At one point, I realized that I was really angry with the archangels. Anybody would say archangels, and I would just almost spit, And I didn't understand why. And one of my sisters said one time, you know that you're angry with them because you are one.
Ah,
And I went, what? So we did some journey work. She's an incredible being. So we did some journey work. And what I learned was that as that aspect of myself, I agreed to come here and experience what I experienced as a child. And one of the things that I set up with them, my family, your family always wants to step in and save you. Your family wants to protect you. And so what I realized through the journey was that I had set that up with them. I had said, no matter what happens, no matter how I'm suffering, no matter how much I'm crying, no matter how much I ask for help, do not step in. Do not step in. I've agreed to experience this, and you have to let me experience it. And then the human part of me was like, where are you guys?
yeah, right. I did it too.
How did you let it happen to me? What do you mean, archangels? They weren't there for me.
Yeah.
What good are they? They weren't there for me. And so, but once I had that remembering of, well, you told them not to step in, it was like, oh my goodness.
How silly am I?
So, so that's one of my favorite examples of the law of free will. They're here to help us, but number one, we have to ask, and number two, we have an agreement.
Yeah.
And of course, you can change your mind at any time on that agreement. But yeah, I mean, everything. I trust that everything that's happened to me happened for a reason, and that has been the biggest healing aha for me, was knowing that my perpetrators, that there was an agreement between us, and that through doing the past life regressions, one of the things that I realized is we've played all the parts, all of the parts. We've been the bad guy, we've been the good guy, we've been the perpetrator, we've been the abused. And at some point you have to look at all that. You have to put your big girl underwear on, so to speak, and say, okay, I agreed to this. What was the purpose of it? What good can come from it? What can I do with it to help others? Yeah. And so that's where I work with women is, okay, you experience this. Let's heal your body. Let's heal your emotions. And let's see, why did you want that experience? Where are you going with it? How is it going to benefit you?
And so you have a structure to work through all of that, right? That you've put. Right. Can you explain to us what that structure is?
Well, first of all, the bullet points, I do a lot of channeling. And so pretty much everything I do is channeled. It's not even me. And so when I wrote down these bullet points, I looked at them later and said, okay.
When I had sent out the request for Patricia to be a part of this summit, I asked her for 3 bullet points to come up with to guide me in how I can ask questions. And her bullet points were super simple. I know I have them around here somewhere.
The plan, the next step, and how will you get there?
Yes. So I created just a couple of questions to help trigger that to come out. So,
well, I have actually looked at it, and I did go back and do my homework, so to speak. So the plan, for me, first of all, it's necessary to delve into that it's not necessary to delve into the experience. I have a lot of women who come and they want the talk therapy.
Well, that's what we're doing, right? That's what we were raised to know, that that's what you had to do if something bad happened to you. Let's sit you down in a strange room.
You've got to talk about it. You've got to remember every tiny detail. And my basic personality is, no, I don't want to hear your story. And sometimes, whenever you invited me, I wrote back and said, I had to really think about this because it triggered me, because I work with women one-on-one. So when I'm working with them one-on-one, I can gauge by their reaction which direction to take them next. Doing this interview, I can't really gauge how people who are listening to this are going to react and whether or not I'm triggering them. And the grandmother in me goes, "Oh, honey, I don't want to trigger you," you know. So for me, I find no benefit in repeating the stories. Well, there are some healing modalities like tapping, for instance, EFT. And so with EFT, there is a protocol called the storyline, where you tell the story, then you tap a key point, and then you tell the story again, you tap another key point. Well, what's interesting about that, and I'm sort of jumping ahead, which is what I do, so I apologize.
Don't worry.
So when you're doing that, what we find is that the story changes. Every time that you tell the story changes, because as you're tapping, you're actually removing blocks and barriers, and you're getting a clearer picture on what actually happened.
Yes. Oh, and I can attest to that. So I
Yeah.
had an experience where I thought it was heavily negative. I thought that he was treating me horribly. And
Mhm.
I did tapping on an unrelated subject. I was just following along. And 2 days later, a dream came to me, reiterating the entire scene, but he was sweet about it. Like, he handed me help. Like, I don't want to go into too much detail here, but I was like, wow, that person who I think that person is the person that showed up to hand me help. And
Right.
I feared he might be was the person who showed up in my memory. So it was like I had a whole new profound love for this person when I
Mhm.
was able to remove that block.
Yeah, tapping is amazing. I taught it for a lot of years. I actually trained the trainers for a lot of years. And the other modality that I really love for doing this emotional healing work is called emotrance. And I also trained the trainers on that one for many years, but my life has sort of taken a different direction. And so it is about getting understanding. I mean, we have all these filters
Mhm.
that we've put in place through our ego, our subconscious, but we have all these filters, and so um, where you may see a circumstance through your filter, when you do the healing work and go back and look at it, it's entirely different because you've dropped some of the filters and you can see it more from truth and heart instead of woundedness and pain.
So, what are some questions that you would ask your client when they first sit down with you?
I would ask them, well, of course, number one, why are you here?
Mhm.
How can I help you? What are your goals? What is it that you want to accomplish? How far are you willing to go?
Yeah.
Because you know, almost anybody that I know that does healing work, when you're receiving the training, there's that one statement that your teacher tells you, and it's to remember that sometimes illness serves the person's purpose.
Mhm.
And that although they come to you for help because there is that part of them that wants help, there's also that part of them that says, I kind of like being catered to. I kind of like having an out because I have a dysfunction. And so I'm not really wanting to do the work. I'm just wanting some relief from the pain that I'm in.
So it really takes an immense amount of, first of all, awareness to know that your label or your sore foot or whatever is giving you access to an excuse.
Right.
And you really have to be willing to look at that.
Hmm.
Speaking from my personal personal experience, there we go. I think that I have let through multiple different potential labels because I wasn't willing to sit and say, yep, that's who I am. Not to say I've abolished all of them. I still have one that I hold on to. But if you're willing to look, you can then transform it.
Yeah.
And when they're willing and you have them ready to go, what is something that you, or I mean, you could even work with me if you wanted, if it makes it easier. Like, what would be the next step after you ask these questions?
Then I use my intuition, and my intuition tells me where to go with that person. And so sometimes, sometimes just the tapping works. Sometimes the emo trance works. Sometimes hypnosis. Sometimes journey work. Sorry about my throat.
Okay.
Sometimes going to the Hall of Records. Sorry.
The Hall of is also known as the Akashic Records, correct? And
it's actually two different things.
it is, okay. I was trying to give your throat lozenge section there to start up, but apparently I'm completely confused and can't speak into it.
So I have training in the Akashic Records.
Okay.
And what happens for me with most modalities is when you learn a modality, it's to remind you of what you already know, because you already know these things. Mm-hmm. And so when I learned Akashic Records, I was given all of the, you can't do this. You can't go here, you can't go there. And my personality, oh, don't tell me what I can't do.
Right. Me too.
And so Source took me a different direction and said, no, I want you to do it this way. And so I developed something called the Hall of Records. And I don't know that anybody's teaching it. I don't really teach it. I just practice it. I just do what Source tells me to do. And it's a journey. It's a very interesting journey to your Hall of Records. And it's actually inside of you, just like the Akashic Records is. But it's a place where all of your soul history resides, and all of your ancestors' soul history, all of your other selves, and all of your parallel lives. Everything is there. And so when you consider that you've lived more than one experience in a body, not even just human, but considering that you've lived all these experiences and all of those ancestors are in there. So it's not just your ancestors from this life, this meat suit that you're in. It's all of your ancestors. And so it's immense what's in that Hall of Records, that place. And so I take people there, and then I will, based on what they want to accomplish, or sometimes based on intuition, I'll call for certain records, and I'll give them the option of destroying or changing the records. There are a lot of people out there that would just flip their lid hearing that. Yeah. Because they don't abide by the law of free will. They think, oh no, you agreed to that. That's your blueprint. You can't change that. And I don't have that belief system. I believe that we had possibilities when we came here. We did set a blueprint, but it was possibilities. Yeah. And that we can say, oh, well, I choose door A instead of door B this time. Mm-hmm. I don't want to experience that anymore. I want to change that. And you do it every day in your life. Think about it. In your conscious life, you already do that. Yep. You'll make a plan to go out with friends. And when you think about your blueprint is down to the millisecond. So in your blueprint, you may have agreed to to meet this person at this party, at this time, at this location, right? Mm-hmm. And have some sort of exchange with that person. But in your consciousness, while you're preparing, getting dressed to go out, your intuition may kick in and say, I don't think I want to do that. And so you change your mind. You don't go to that party or, event. You don't meet that person. You don't have that experience. Law of free will. Nothing is set in stone. And so when I take people to the Hall of Records, it's the same thing. It's saying, okay, I may have this contract, agreement, promise, blood oath, whatever, to experience lack in my life. But guess what? I don't choose to experience that anymore. And so you destroy that agreement, whatever it was. The same thing with abuse, the same thing with neglect, or being the whipping boy, being the scapegoat for your family. I mean, there's so many human aspects that you can look at while you're there. The journey is very empowering for so many people because it's simple.
Yeah.
And I work with simple. I don't work with modalities that are detailed and you have to spend 12 times and say enchant and burn candles, and I have no problem with any of that. I'm really not criticizing that. I'm just making a point. People need some people need the ritual. I mean, they do. My background is shamanism. It's ritual, right?
Yeah.
So some people need ritual, and I'm Native American. I don't teach Native American ways for a reason. I don't believe that you should teach those. I believe that it's in your DNA and you live it. You don't teach it. It's not something that you learn, it's something that you remember. And so, but that part of me has a history of ritual. It also has a history of automatically being connected to the elements without having to go through all the rituals and steps. And I forgot, I got sidetracked. Anyway,
That's okay.
the Hall of Records is very simple. And it's only one of those things only one of the tools that I use to empower people, because they are there, they're choosing whether or not to destroy a record and change their path.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going with all that. I'm sorry.
No, I think I was just pulled in by what you were saying, because I'm so glad I'm not the only person who thinks this way. And also for those who don't, it's a different view to take on if you want to try it out. We all know who we are, and we forget who we are through the experience of negativity, and then we can triumph over that and find ourselves again by adding the positive back in and the willingness to look and have choice. When we are trapped inside of a place where you hear yourself saying, I don't have a choice here, that's when you're stuck. That's when you reach out to people like Patricia and myself, because that's a lie. You have other choices. So I just want to recap a little bit, because you did say a lot. So you ask a few basic questions. What do you want from me? What are you here for? How can I help you? What are you willing to do? I think that's a big one. And then you listen to your own personal intuition as to what tool works best for the individual that you're working with. And you keep it as simple as possible. So, and they can add in the ritual aspect if they feel that that's something they need or want. But right. Simplistic, I think, is key here, because we're adding something new to our lives. And when you overcomplicate it, we might lose the point. So I really like the way that you work with people, and it's so individualized. It's amazing.
It is, because we're all different crayons in the same box. Mm-hmm. And what works for me may not work for anybody else. And so the thing is to be flexible with people, because we're here to help them, not to enforce our belief systems on them.
Right. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that you're wrong or you're absolutely right. I just love absorbing what I feel for me is right. Mm-hmm. And when our pressures on ourselves to get others to believe in what we believe in, we're losing the point also.
Yeah, there's an old I don't know how you would term it, but there's an old saying of, listen to everything I say, but don't believe a word of it.
Yeah.
You have to determine for yourself what rings with you and what feels right for you. And And the other thing is, we are changing our vibrations, hopefully. We are changing our vibrations every millisecond. And so what I believed yesterday may be different from what I believe today.
Yeah. Which that can
Hopefully.
be confusing to some people, but what you're doing is you're accepting today as today and now.
You're expanding. I mean, why do you want to stay stuck in one place?
Yeah.
What's the point? Just become a statue. What's the point if you're not going to expand and learn something new and change your perspective? There's really no point to it.
Yeah.
So I'm always open to learn new things and to expand. But what I was going to say is, as far as the plan, yes, that's it, is to ask them what they want out of life, how far are they willing to go for it. I mean, my clients, most of the time, I only see them once.
Wow.
And that, I mean, every once in a while, someone will come back.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they become sisters. But as far as the client, I often only see people one time, because when they're here, they leave here with tools. And my thing is, I don't want them to become dependent on me. That's another dysfunctional relationship. I want them to know that they can do this themselves, that they are magical beings. They don't need me for this. They came to me for me to remind them how powerful they are, and to have an experience. But it's not necessary to come to me all the time to put a Band-Aid on something, when you can just rip the Band-Aid off and allow the air to get to the wound and allow it to heal.
Yeah.
But so the next step was the second bullet point. So the next step is, where do you want to change your life? What are you willing to release? And that's where I determine what tools to use with them or for them. And then the third bullet point is, how are you going to get there? And so that is when we start to chip away and when I start to show them who they really are and what they can do, and that it was only an experience. And you mentioned it, not everybody is willing to admit that it was only an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want to stay in the labels. I don't do labels. And so I don't call myself a survivor. I say I experienced this. I experienced this.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it was. It was an experience. And I've experienced a million other things since then. But for me, it's all whether or not someone wants to move past it. And I sort of have a rule, because I'm a magical being just like everybody else. I have a rule that the only women who can find themselves to me are the ones who are willing to shift and change and expand their point of view.
Yeah.
And become what they're supposed to be. So I don't tend to get the ones that want you to just listen to them once a week.
Right.
They just want to complain. I usually don't get those. And there's a purpose for those. I mean, again, the law of free will, everyone is entitled to do what makes them happy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes needing that reinforcement of love and comfort and sympathy is what they need.
Yeah.
They just can't get that from me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and it wouldn't work if they did, because the level that you're asking them to be at, I mean, it wouldn't work. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, like I'm sure you probably experienced that too, where you just had to say it. Like for a long time, I wanted validation. I wanted people to be proud of me for not being whatever the bad stuff could have been. And I wanted Yeah, I just wanted to be heard that, I was hurt.
Hmm.
Then it got to, I had a conversation with a gal, and she had experienced the sexual abuse. And she's like, wow, how did you get to where you are? And I didn't know that I had gotten anywhere. But my vibrational level had shifted, and I had no idea that it had done that. And I was now authentically supporting her in
Hmm.
what she needed to do right there in that moment, which was make a phone call. And she came back from that phone call, and I got this huge hug. It was just the best feeling ever. That was so fulfilling. And for her to feel like she was heard in such a short amount of time, I think we talked for like literally 5 minutes. She said that this is what she experienced and this is who she needs to call. And I said, one sentence. And I was like, our daddies need to know that we were hurt. That was,
Right.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then this is who I get to be for the sake of choosing the path and being willing. But so my point there was, don't make yourself wrong if you're telling someone your story, or your story happens to come up a lot, or you're journaling about the same topic all the time. It's okay. It's what,
Someone may need to hear that.
yeah.
So that's what I mean. There's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no blame, there's no judgment or criticism, at least for me. Because some people, I mean, maybe that was that person's agreement to tell the story so that someone else could learn from it. So there is a purpose to telling the story. I'm just saying in my personal work, knowing the story is not necessary to help you heal if that's where you're at.
And that is, I think, creates so much hope, because there are so many people out there right now, like, I don't want to talk about my story. I just want the pain to go away.
Right.
And the willingness to do the work, I'm sure somewhere, sometimes it comes up if it's a powerful enough pain that you have to express at least part of it.
Hmm.
But you have already stated you're not willing to stick there. So that's already leaping you forward. You're just going
Yeah.
to say it and be done with it. So don't have fear that it might come up, but know
Hmm.
that there's hope that it's not going to stay.
Right. So there's just so many ways. Like for the past 25 years, I guess, I've been doing women's retreats, and I started out as women's healing retreats. And
Okay.
it was based on these scenarios, these sisters that had been wounded and they were ready to heal. And so for many, many years, I did those retreats, those healing retreats. And it was brutal, brutal. You're talking 20 women who have experienced trauma, who are stuck in trauma. And so it was brutal because the retreats are 2.5 days of work. It's not, you don't come lay down and get a massage. You come and you do work. And they were one of my sisters labeled it the what did she call it? The snot purge and puke festival.
Oh,
Because it was brutal, but by the time they left,
yeah.
you could see a physical change in them. But it was hard on me. And so in the past, I want to say 5 years, I changed that. I shifted that and said, I'm sorry, sisters, there's healing work and I want that for you. But now these retreats are about expanding. And so now they're women's intensive expansion weekends. you know, Now they're about women who want to expand and learn more and, change their vibrations and raise their vibrations and bust out of the cocoon and become the butterfly, so to speak. So for me now, I want them to do their healing work, their wounded work before they get there.
Yeah.
So there is so much being offered out there right now. I mean, if you Google, um, there are just so many avenues for people to heal, men and women. And at one point, I thought about opening the retreats up to men as well. Um, but no, Source is still saying your work is with women, just wholly with women right now.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
here's a question for you. Say that someone in the audience is ready for this and they're ready to work with you, or they're excited about the word retreat. How do they get in touch with you?
I have several websites, but the main one is patriciawalls.net. Very simply.
And Walls is literally WALLS. Super simple.
patriciawalls.net. And I have a website just for the women's retreats, but it's Wise Woman, WOMBYN.com. There's also a website for the Galactic Federation of Light, because one of the ways that Source has moved me is being more participatory in the language of light movement, bringing that awareness into humanity, that we are light, we are light beings. And so pretty much the women's retreats now are focused on that, on expanding yourself and realizing that you are a light being, and beginning to live your life from that point of view. So yeah, patriciawalls.net is a great starting point.
Awesome. Patricia, just thank you so much for being on here and for doing the work that you do and for following your intuition. And it's been an honor to just even be connected with you.
Well, thank you very much for even giving me the opportunity. I like to talk, and sometimes I get carried away. So thank you for your patience.
Of course, everything that you have said I feel has a place. Like, it needs to be heard, and people need to know that following their intuition isn't some bad thing. It's your heart speaking to you. Source is speaking to you. However Source shows up for you, it doesn't matter what you follow. It's there. Or if you don't, it's still there.
It's your safety valve. You should always follow your intention. I mean, your intuition. It's what keeps you safe, really. So
yeah, the moment that we don't think of it, it's those moments are like, oh, if I would have just made that phone call, or if I had left 5 seconds sooner, or if I just didn't go today.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've said that plenty of times in my life, and I haven't said it recently, so I think I'm listening. It's a good sign. So thank you, viewers, for your commitment to your own healing and your journey that you on. Whatever point of your journey that you are in, you're doing amazing. And the fact that you acknowledge it, I think that's huge. And your willingness, when you're ready, you can do anything. You can have any kind of life that you want.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Patricia, and viewers. I will see you in the next video.
All right. Thank you.